All right, guys, let's talk about equipment that we're going to use. I love to give my clients options. So I want you guys to know that I want you to choose the best training tool for your dog and what you're comfortable using. One of my favorite training tools to start with is a slip leash. I make my own slip leashes. You can find them on my website at leaderofthepacklv.com. I started making my own slip leashes because the most important part of a slip leash is actually going to be the stop slide, because you want this piece to be pretty secure, because the whole point of it is to hold the collar portion in place. But this leash is something that I would recommend starting with if you're unsure where you should start. The next thing I would recommend you give a shot is a martingale collar, and we'll talk about that next. All right, guys, so I got a martingale collar here. I like the martingale collars with a buckle. So they're a lot easier to put on than the ones that you would have to put over the dog's head and then make adjustments. So once you put it around your dog's neck, you can just lock it in place. This particular brand actually has the feature to lock it in place. You're going to want to attach a regular training leash to your collar, so that way you have control over it, and that would be attached right here. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next, I want to show you guys a Star Mark collar. All right, guys, so I got a Star Mark collar here. We're moving up a little bit in the aversive training tools. One of the things I love about a Star Mark collar is that it's kind of a midway point between a prong collar and a martingale. So this is something that I recommend for my clients who have dogs that are a little bit too sensitive to the prong, but need a little bit more of a correction when they're being trained. The other thing that I like about the Star Mark is that it's actually good for the client. Sometimes people have a hard time putting a prong on their dog because of how aggressive it looks. And I think this is a good midway point, so you can get that control that you're looking for from your dog without feeling like you're hurting them in a sense. So we'll talk about the prong next. All right, guys, I got a prong collar here. Just a little note, I only recommend using the brand Herm Springer. They are known for their quality prong collars, and in my opinion, anything else is pretty much going to be a knockoff. The other thing to keep in mind with Herm Springer is that with the prongs, they're rounded. So some of the ones you might find from a local pet store, for example, when they are produced and manufactured, they're cut straight down and they're never polished around the edges. So what ends up happening is you have really, really sharp edges. So just be mindful of that. Make sure that you get a good quality Herm Springer prong collar. And I always tell my clients that I know these collars look pretty aggressive, but this is a collar you want to use for, let's say, a very large, strong dog, or a dog that you have that is just really used to pulling against you and not minding you at all. This collar will help do a lot of the work for you. So it's not about yanking your dog around, and you'll see how we'll use the prong, but it's more about having a training tool that aids you in your ability to physically control your dog. Because ultimately, if you don't have that physical control over them, you're not really going to be able to get them to follow along and listen to you and do what you like. So we'll talk about the place bed next.